A reporter from Sarah Kimani, East Africa correspondent, on the arrest of Kabuga. Well, Sarah, welcome to the program. Speak to us. Tell us more about the arrest, first and foremost, of Kabuga. He was on the run for 26 years, as it were.
Indeed, he was on the run for 26 years. And so this is a victory and a landmark victory in terms of attaining justice for victims of the Rwandan genocide, the 1994 Rwandan genocide, in which close to 1 million people were killed. There has been a $5 million bounty over his head all this time. And it has been said that at one point he was in Kenya running businesses along one of the plush areas in the country. Then at one point he was said to be in Geneva in Switzerland, came back to Africa, lived in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Some people even saying that at one point he was in Germany, and now finally he is arrested in Paris. All this time there has been a lot of suspicion that he is actually in Kenya. Indeed, during his visit to Kenya, former President Obama accusing Kenya of hiding Kabuga, and Kenya denying that he was here. But a lot of people have actually lost their lives here in Kenya, those who have been on trail for Kabuga, including journalists, including security personnel, police informers. So he's left behind a legacy here in Kenya of a man who was feared and revered, but also a man who seemed to have managed to get along very well with the authorities or the powers that be at any given time.
Speak to us about the significance of this arrest, Sarah. The families, victims, and as you said, those who have lost their lives, close to those who have lost their lives due to Kabuga. Of course, indeed, if he is guilty and is involved in the killings, what is the significance of this arrest?
There will now be only two people remaining in terms of the fugitives whose names have been out there. There were 10 initially, and now there'll only be 2 people remaining, and so this is quite significant. However, in terms of justice, we have seen that even those who have been arrested before and those whose trials have been before the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in Arusha, Tanzania, the justice has been very slow, and very few people are actually convicted, with Rwanda complaining that the process was tedious and was not able to deliver justice for victims. But many people will want to see how this goes. Kabuga was quite an influential person. His 2 daughters were married to the sons of former President Habyarimana, and so he had connections with the then government of Habyarimana. He was a rich businessman. He controlled the media. He had actually a radio station, RTLM, which called for the extermination of the Tutsi at that time. He also is said to have began buying machetes and, stockpiling for a period of time long before the genocide started. So if indeed he's found guilty and he's brought to book, then it will be victory and a landmark decision in terms of getting justice for victims of the genocide.
So always a question again, Sarah, about the International Criminal Court, the ICC. Would we expect him to appear there? What happens now following the process, obviously, that will be handled out in France? What happens now?
Well, we understand that what will happen now, he will appear before a court in Paris, and that court is one that will decide whether he will be extradited to The Hague, because the court in Arusha, Tanzania, the ICTR already completed its work, but most of the functions of that court were now moved to The Hague. So that is where the processes will continue. But it is important that whatever happens now, a lot of people, this sends a message, not just to the perpetrators of the 1994 Rwandan genocide, but other genocides and other war crimes that have been committed across the world, that it doesn't matter how long it takes. At one point, and indeed the prosecutor saying that at one point, the law catches up with you. It's been 26 years and the law has finally caught up with Kabuga. Very untouchable man. Nobody thought that he'd actually ever face the law. He's 84 now, so you can see how long he's managed to run away from justice.
Do you have any idea how the law finally caught up with him in France? And as far as you following the story, do we know how it happened?
Well, what we know is that they have been tracking him for some time. He has been moving apartments and flats all this time when he was in Paris. And it looks like they have been keeping an eye on him. And I guess it was time to pounce on him. Now, in terms of how the law, and this is what has happened previously between Rwanda and France, there have been that pool of Rwanda wanting genocide suspects to be taken to Kigali, back to Kigali, to be extradited to Kigali for trial. President Kagame is yet to speak about these latest arrests, so we do not know if Rwanda will be demanding that he's taken back to Rwanda to face justice there. But what we know for sure is that The Hague, the International Court in The Hague, different from the International Court, the Criminal Court though, will be waiting to take up the trial from here.
In fact, speaking about Rwanda itself, despite the genocide past, the country is probably one of the shining beacons on the continent. All things Rwanda these days looks pretty.
All things Rwanda look pretty, despite cases of where people have complained of human rights abuses and dictatorial tendencies by Paul Kagame. But you will give it to the country, one of the cleanest countries actually in the world, especially Kigali, the capital. The economy has been growing at a rate of 9% every year. I think sometimes up to 10% double-digit growth. It has been marked as one of the main countries for MICE, that is meetings and conferences in Africa. This year it was second after Cape Town. 2019 it was second after Cape Town. It is also one of the countries where health works well, education works well. In fact, one of the places where private schools are finding it very difficult to operate because public schools are said to be doing better than private schools. And so And the unity that was found after the genocide, many people thought that after the fractious divisions between the Tutsis and the Hutus, it would be impossible to bring the people of Rwanda together. But you will give it to Paul Kagame that since the genocide, Rwandans now speak one language, Kinyarwanda, and everybody considers themselves Rwandan. There are no tribal divisions anymore. So Kagame has been able to bring the country together despite everything that happened 26 years ago.
Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know we had not discussed any, possibly if you have any latest information around COVID-19 around the East African bloc. What is the latest in particular? Maybe let's start there in Rwanda. Any latest there?
Yeah, Rwanda has not registered any cases in the last 1 week. They're saying that they are now managing to put the disease under control. However, countries like Kenya now are seeing a lot of cross-border transmissions. President Kenyatta has just concluded an address to the nation, and he says that 43 cases that were positive recorded in the last 1 week were cross-border transmissions. And so this evening, President Kenyatta has ordered the closure of the borders between Kenya and Tanzania, as well as between Kenya and Somalia, because he says those 43 cases were divided between the two countries. The lockdown, or the dusk to dawn curfew in Kenya, has also been extended further by another 21 days. Kenyatta speaking very solemnly today and pleading with the Kenyans not to travel up country to see their parents, also asking them not to even try and sneak through the containment areas, saying that a lot of people are still sneaking and taking the disease up country to the villages where it has not been noticed, or where it is still not as much as in the cities. In Uganda, most of the community transmissions are almost next to nil. However, the country is also registering a lot of transmissions among the truck drivers. In a meeting last week between the East African community leaders, they agreed that they will begin massive testing of truck drivers, and no truck driver will cross the border without a certificate indicating a clean bill of health. Tanzania, we still are not where we still do not know the number of Tanzanians who have tested positive for COVID-19, because the country has not given any numbers in the last 2 weeks. In Somalia, the numbers are increasing, and now there are about 1,222 positive cases of COVID-19 in that country.
Sarah Kimani is Africa correspondent right at SABC News. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Sarah. Always up to date with all the numbers and figures, and that's part of the continent. especially in particular the update on the French authorities arresting Félicien Kabuga, one of the world's most wanted fugitives who allegedly had a leading figure in the 1994 genocide of the Tutsi in Rwanda. Thank you very much. There's Sarah Kimani joining us via Skype, our SABC News East Africa correspondent. On a story she just touched on is the fact that Kenya